it's Jack, and this video is called The 3 Attitudes That Men Love in Women. Thanks for being here. Let's get right into it. So the first attitude that men tend to love in women, men love it when women value their freedom. Men love it when women value their freedom. So let's unpack this, because this is nuanced territory. So right off the bat, when I say this, I don't mean that he gets to have, a free pass all the time. I don't mean that he doesn't have to get into commitment. I don't mean that he's not got to be loyal and faithful. I don't mean any of that. What I mean is that most men in their core, the thing they value most is freedom, right? So if it's true, then the essence of the guy that you're with is a guy that wants to feel free. Now, being in the mature masculine means learning how to feel free as you also have commitments, responsibilities, right? So an immature sense of freedom is, I get to do what I want, when I want, how I want. A more mature sense of freedom is, how can I feel free while there are obviously constraints, limitations, frustrations, roles, duties, and all these things, right? So there's work to do for me and most men in how to feel more free in a mature way. But men, if you want to partner with them, will love it when you actually get, okay, at his core, this is one of the things that he really values. So how can I care for that? How can I care that he has time and things on his calendar that will lend itself to that sense of freedom? Whatever that is for him, right? Whether that's, running ultra marathons or, taking his motorbike cross country or spending good time with his guy friends, might be working super hard in dimensions of his self-development or business, whatever that is, that you actually get it so that when he's wanting to do something that is in service of that value, you automatically have some kind of receptivity to the idea. Now, there's going to be all sorts of things that, you need to agree, negotiate between you. It doesn't mean that freedom is the only thing to be valued, but if he's constantly having to work against you every time he wants to experience some sense of space or freedom, it's going to create a lot of conflict, a lot of tension, and ultimately he's probably not going to feel supported by you, right? So men love it when you can at least care, or even if you don't have a high value on freedom yourself, maybe over time you can learn to value it, or just that you get to see him because it's something that he really values. The second attitude that men tend to love in women is when women trust them, right? Men love to be trusted. Now, again, right off the bat, this isn't to say that you need to trust him immediately, right? Trust is to be earned, right? So this isn't about his taking your trust lightly, but it is about, if you want to relate with him, over the short, medium, longer term, that you are moving in that direction if he is trustworthy, right? So his being trustworthiness, that's on his side of the fence, right? And all of us can work on that as men. But your side of the fence is that you want to support his trustworthiness, right? And that you acknowledge that there might be places that you bring trust issues to the table. And with his support, that's something that you might want to be curious about and look at. And that you at times could learn to distinguish, even if you can't do it in the moment, maybe it's something you can do after the moment, that you're feeling untrusting of him doesn't necessarily mean that he's untrustworthy. Now, if he is being untrustworthy, you can name that, you can call it out, and you can act accordingly, right? Ultimately, for you to be in a more committed form of relationship, you're going to want to be with a guy that you trust, right? So if you don't trust him, even if, hypothetically, that's actually mostly on your side of the fence, I'm not saying it is, but let's just say it were, that still is not going to probably work for you, right? There's going to need to be something that's going to need to be worked there, or there's going to be a different combination or flavor of guy that's going to have you experience more trust. Men and women tend to think about trust a little bit differently, right? So again, I'm talking in gross orienting generalization here, but if you're a woman who's more in a feminine essence, as most of you are or are capable of, or capable of reclaiming, your way of experiencing trust might be a little bit more in the moment, right? Meaning in this moment right now, how do you feel about him? And his might be a little bit more based on, performance, track record. Quote, it might be a little bit more logical, so to speak. Now, you might be a highly logical woman, so again, I'm talking in generalizations here. But men, when they think about trusting other men, they tend to say, well, most of the time, or even the vast majority of the time, does he do the thing he says he's going to do? And that's good enough. And we know that we're going to fall short at some times, right? Whereas if this is a situation where he is falling short, it might in that moment have you trust him a lot less. So I'm sort of distinguishing a little bit between the kind of in the moment trust versus, trust through the course of your knowing him. Has he been worthy of your trust? And there's always things that as men we will do that make us less trustworthy, right? Whether that's being plain and direct, whether that is following through on the things we say we're going to do, whether that's taking good care of ourselves, whether that's not being critical, handling conflict. There's all sorts of things that we can do to be more trustworthy. But just know that it has an impact on him, like in terms of his feeling his core masculine essence. He's likely to feel that more when he has a sense that you trust him. Not that he can then take advantage of that trust, but actually that he's now responsible, right? That's actually the thing that you might inspire and evoke in him, is a sense of responsibility, right? Like, oh, I've got something bigger than me here, right? This relationship system, his care for you, that there's his circle of concern is extended towards you, right? To want to support and protect you, to want to love and cherish you. And that's a bigger game for most guys, right? Takes energy, time, investment. There will be lots of seasons in a guy's life where he's less capable or less available for that, right? Because if he hasn't got his own foundation beneath him, or if he's not on some kind of track with his career and purpose, it's harder for guys generally to extend that kind of concern. But if they are in that situation and they are worthy of some trust, and you can even at times let him know, right? That might be one of the most precious 3 words for him to hear, I trust you, right? And that might be really hard for you to get to that point. So I'm not inviting you to do this if it doesn't feel authentic to you. But if it is true to you, that's actually a gift that you can give in relating to him. And let's also get sober. If it isn't true for you and you're not in a direction over time that's moving towards that, this probably isn't a good place for you to be setting up camp, right? This probably isn't a good place for you because, ultimately that's also a gift back to you, right? Is for you to be in some kind of connection that you feel a level of trust for him, and that he can look out for you, and that he has got some of your best interests at heart. So men tend to love it when, rightfully and authentically, again, this is not about, trying to push untrustworthiness aside. This is saying when he deserves it, that you can actually acknowledge that you trust him. And the third attitude that men love in women is women who care about being in their feminine, if your essence is that you have a feminine essence, right? So lots of women won't have a feminine essence, lots of men won't have a masculine essence, but in gross orienting generalization, in the majority, they will. And some of you, and many of you are kind of working on, what does that really mean? How do I get to be in my feminine? What is feminine energy? It's a little bit of an essentially contested concept, right? Which is a fancy way of saying we probably can't just round on one definition. There's lots of ways that we can talk at this or approximate to it. But just simply, if we think of one aspect of the feminine, which could be receptivity, right? The ability to receive him, the ability to allow him to initiate, the ability to be the kind of emotional conductor of the connection, right? Again, in gross orienting generalization, you're probably more likely to be connected to your emotions and to your body than he is. I remember the late great Sir Ken Robinson. If you never saw his TED Talk on creativity, he was a really inspiring guy. And he would talk about, most of us, we just use our heads, we're so in our heads that we just use our body as a way of getting our heads to go to meetings. Right? Now, if that's true of humans, I think it's even more true of guys, that we tend to get locked up here. So the more that you're connected to your heart and emotions and your body, that's something that you're bringing to him. It's basically, you want to feel special and unique to him. One of the ways that you can do that is by bringing energies, bringing awareness, experience that he doesn't find in other places, right? So as freedom loving as he might be, when he's, riding his bike across the backcountry, or going backcountry camping, or wingsuiting, or whatever he likes to do, there's a specific thing that you can do in terms of your feminine energy, that flavor of energy. If he is a guy that has a masculine essence, or at least mostly a masculine essence, that is going to be attractive to him. It's also going to be replenishing to him, right? It's sort of thing like you can work super hard in a certain direction, right? And I can think of this experience. You work really hard in your work, there's a thing that then you're looking to replenish, right? And maybe as a guy, you get it, through the motorbike or the action movie, but there's another flavor, which is more sensual and emotional and energetic, maybe romantic, sexual, and it's replenishing to the dynamic of the masculine, which is about action, rest, right? So he's going out in the world taking action. When he's coming back into that rest and renewal phase, sometimes he'll want to take space, but there's sometimes where he's going to want to lean into the connection with you because it brings out parts of him that he can't really bring out easily on his own. So if you are doing things in your life, if you want to have a relationship, and that doesn't mean, by the way, that you won't have a masculine side to you, right? And that you can be working on cultivating your healthy masculine, right? Just like as men, we can be cultivating our healthy feminine. But we're sort of talking in the majority principle that if he's majoritarily in his masculine essence, then you, honey, can be more in your feminine essence. What could be simpler than that? Okay, I'll just go off and take some elocution lessons. But in the meantime, thanks for still being here. So if the majority of the time he's more in his masculine and you're more in his feminine, there's something about that, right? That polarity, that attraction, that kind of, if you think of the symbol, I can't really do it with my hands, of the yin and the yang, right? It's like, where does one start? Where does one end? They're kind of constantly renewing and playing off of one another. That sort of energetic play is not the only thing. There's other things, obviously, that men want in relationship, but it's one of the prime things that it's really hard to get in other places, right? It's really hard to get from friendship. It's really hard to get from his male friends. It's really hard to get from his work. It's really hard to get from his taken space. That's something that's super precious. So if you're taking that seriously, right, that maybe you're even listening to this right now and you think, wow, like, I don't even know what you're talking about, or I've tried this, but maybe you're in a career path that's actually rewarded you handsomely for being in your masculine. It doesn't mean that you need to be in your feminine all the time, or even that you need to know all the time how to do it. I think it's a direction of travel, right? It's that you care about that you maybe care about nurturing those parts of yourself, right? Just in the same way that he might be caring about, nurturing his masculine, right? And kind of going out in the world and slaying his dragons, whatever he does, or, having a purpose in the world, taking care of himself, taking action, initiating dates. He's got those things that he can bring into a relationship. And I'm pointing to the sort of inverse dynamic that you might be able to bring to the relationship. And, there's lots of videos, good videos out there about how to nurture more of your feminine energy. I'm just saying that's an attitude that men care about. So you get the thing that you're bringing to him that he doesn't easily get elsewhere. So let's recap. You value his freedom. He knows that you can trust him, and you care about cultivating feminine energy. So what's your experience of that? Leave me a comment here. I'd love to know which of these is easiest for you. Which of these is hardest for you? Have you been practicing trying to do each or any one of these? Have you maybe been in one of these territories? Perhaps you've told a guy that you trust him and actually hasn't worked out for you. I want to know all and any of it. So leave me a comment. If you've liked this video, hit the like button, and please subscribe if you haven't. If you're new here or you haven't yet subscribed, I release new videos every week on dating, personal growth, authenticity, and I'd love to have you with us. This is a great community. So hit subscribe, then tap that bell notification so you hear of new videos as soon as they come out. And as always, I'm Jack. Thanks for being here.